The cold, biting wind of March 1945 swept through the German ruins. Inside his private command tent, General George S. Patton sat alone now. The maps on his desk were covered in the dust of recent battles. He was a man who lived for the roar of the massive tanks. But that night, a strange and heavy silence filled the cramped room. It was the kind of silence that usually comes before a storm. Patton reached for his famous ivory-handled revolver to clean the cold steel. Suddenly, he felt a presence behind him that was not quite right. The shadows near his iron cot seemed to shift and breathe softly. He didn't call for his guards or make a sudden loud sound. The old blood and guts simply waited, his eyes narrowing and dark. He knew that a predator never strikes until the prey shows itself. Slowly, a small, trembling figure emerged from the thick, black canvas corner. It wasn't an assassin or a seasoned Nazi commando looking for glory. It was a young German boy, no older than 15, in rags. The boy's face was covered in the soot of 1,000 fires. He stood there, frozen in terror, staring at the general's gleaming stars. The air in the tent grew heavy with a very strange tension. Patton kept his hand on his pistol, but didn't draw the weapon. He saw the fear in the child's eyes and felt a shift. The boy wasn't there to kill. He was there for a reason. But the most curious part was what the boy clutched so tightly. His hands were white, gripping a small, weathered leather case with force. The secret inside that case was about to shatter the night. Patton didn't scream or bark an order to his guards outside. He simply looked at the boy, who was shivering like a leaf. The general's hard face, usually set in a scowl, softened slightly now. He beckoned the young soldier to come closer into the light. The boy took one step forward, his boots clicking on wood. This wasn't an enemy anymore, but a son of a broken land. The boy tried to speak, but the words were stuck deep. Tears began to carve clean paths through the soot on cheeks. He held out the leather case, his arms shaking with effort. Patton noticed the boy was wearing a uniform far too large. It was a tragedy that the Reich was using children now. The general felt a wave of cold disgust for the Nazis. He had seen death in every form, but this was different. He thought of his own family back home in the States. In that moment, the old blood and guts became very human. He realized this boy was a messenger from a dying world. The boy whispered a single word in German that Patton knew. Patton reached out and, gently took the heavy case from him. The leather was cold and, honestly, smelled of damp earth and smoke. As his fingers touched the metal latch, he felt a real sense of dread. He looked back at the boy and saw a look of relief on his face. The child had risked everything to bring this specific item to him. The contents of that case, well, they were far more valuable than gold. Patton held his breath as he finally unbuckled the leather straps. He carefully clicked the cold, rusted metal latch of the case. The general expected a hidden weapon, or perhaps, a small bomb, but as the lid creaked open, the yellowed paper glowed softly. They weren't just common sketches of a small German town today. These were the master blueprints for the Reich's most secret hideouts. They showed the hidden tunnels under the mountains of the south. Patton saw locations that his own intelligence had never even found. Between the maps were letters written by high-ranking German officers. They spoke of a secret plan to surrender the city of Berlin. The boy had brought the key to a very swift Allied victory. Patton looked from the papers back to the shivering, small child. He realized the immense and, lethal risk this boy had taken. To carry these documents through the lines was a suicide mission. The child had chosen to betray his nation to save his soul. Patton felt a sudden and deep respect for this tiny warrior. He knew these papers were written in the blood of patriots, but as the general reached the bottom of the leather case, he found a small silver locket tucked under a secret map. He clicked it open and, felt his heart stop for a second. The face staring back at him was someone he knew quite well. A cold realization washed over the legendary general in the dark. The boy hadn't just chosen any tent, he had come for him. Patton stared at the photograph inside the silver locket now. The woman in the picture had eyes he never forgot. She was a nurse he had met years ago in France. A deep hidden memory from the First Great War returned. He realized this boy was the son of that woman. The connection between the general and the child was real. The general looked at the boy's features with new eyes. He saw the same stubborn jaw and the same fire. This wasn't just a random act of a brave spy. The boy was fulfilling a promise made by his mother. She had told him to find the man with stars. Patton felt the weight of a debt he never knew. Years ago, Patton had saved that nurse during a raid. He had given her that locket as a small token. It was a private moment lost in the smoke. Now, that same locket had returned to save his life. The documents in the case were her final, lethal gift. She knew that only Patton could be trusted with truth. The general realized he could no longer follow official orders. This secret connection changed the entire nature of his drive. He had to protect the boy while using the maps. If Eisenhower found out, the political fallout would be massive. Patton began to whisper a plan to the trembling child. But a loud, sudden commotion outside the tent stopped them. The voices outside the tent grew louder and more aggressive. Patton's personal guard was questioning a high-ranking visitor now. The general knew he had only seconds to hide the child. He pointed toward the heavy wooden chest near his cot. The boy scrambled inside, clutching the leather case with fear. The flap of the tent was about to be pulled. Patton stood tall, smoothing his uniform and checking his pistols. He put on his coldest and most terrifying commander face. A captain from Eisenhower's staff stepped into the dim light. The young officer looked nervous as he saw Patton scowl. "Sir, there are reports of an enemy infiltrator," he said. The air in the room felt tight and incredibly dangerous. The general didn't blink or show any sign of nerves. He barked that he was busy and needed absolute silence. The captain's eyes darted around the small, cramped command space. He noticed a small patch of soot on the floorboards. Patton stepped over it, shielding the evidence with his boots. The risk of a court-martial was suddenly very real here. The officer handed Patton a telegram with a worried look. It was a direct order from the Supreme Allied Commander. Eisenhower was demanding a full search of all command tents. They were looking for a stolen case from the Reich. Patton realized that he was now hiding a lethal truth. The hunt for the boy was becoming a personal war. The general's roar sent the young captain staggering backward quickly. He shouted that no one searched George Patton's personal quarters. The officer apologized and saluted with a trembling, pale hand. The flap of the tent finally closed with a sharp. Patton didn't wait a second before opening the wooden chest. The boy's wide eyes looked up in a state of awe and confusion. He knew deep down that the maps were the only way to victory. If he turned the boy in, the child was dead. If he kept the maps secret, he was a traitor. But Patton always trusted his ancient, deep, and warrior soul. He decided to launch his own private mission that night. He would sneak the boy to a safe, quiet farmhouse. He grabbed a dark wool coat and a simple helmet. He told the boy to stay low and to follow. They slipped out the back of the tent into the mud. The American camp was a maze of trucks and shadows. Patton knew the guard rotations like the back of his hand. He was using his tactical genius for a small life. The cold rain began to fall as they reached the perimeter. One single light swept across the wet and dark road. Patton held the boy's hand, feeling the small, cold fingers. He pushed the child toward the safety of the woods. "Run," he whispered, watching the small shadow vanish into the dark. The general was now alone with the stolen, heavy case. The morning sun rose over the smoking German ruins. General Patton sat at his desk, the maps open. He didn't tell a soul about the visitor's face. Instead, he issued orders that seemed like pure luck. His tanks moved with a precision that stunned everyone. The Allied advance became a tidal wave of steel. In just a few weeks, the resistance finally collapsed. The secret maps had revealed every hidden Nazi lair. The war ended faster than Eisenhower had ever planned. Patton received the medals and the world's loud praise, but he never mentioned the boy in his tent. He kept that story locked behind his iron scowl. The general knew that his glory was a gift. It was a gift from a nurse he saved, and from a boy who risked it all then. History books call his success a tactical military genius, but we know the truth was far more personal. The greatest victories are often won by small hands. Patton took the silver locket to his final rest. He proved that a warrior must have a heart. Sometimes the rules must break to save a world. The boy lived a quiet life in a free. This secret remains a ghost in the Allied archives. The truth is always found in the shadows, friend. It is a chilling thought, isn't it? Knowing that the peace we enjoy today was secured by a general who was willing to become a traitor to his own rules to save a child. Patton chose the boy over the bureaucracy, proving that true authority doesn't come from the stars on your shoulder, but from the character you show when no one else is watching. But now, my friend, I really want to hear what you think about this hidden mission. Do you believe Patton was a hero for protecting the boy, Or was it a dangerous risk to keep such massive secrets from the high command? If you were in that tent, with the weight of the war on your back, and a shivering child in front of you, would you have followed the rules or followed your gut? Let's talk about it in the comments. I'm truly curious to see how you view that thin line between duty and morality. And if you felt that spark of discovery today, seeing the human soul behind the military legend, don't let this be our last secret. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell right now. We are uncovering the rare truths and the epic stories that the official history books are simply too afraid to tell. Thank you for spending your time with a friend like me today. It is a privilege to share these truths with you. Until the next revelation, keep looking for the light in the shadows.